Well, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us. Really thrilled to have you this week. Got a lot of important political stories we're going to cover. Interesting, maybe political stories. I don't know. We're going to do some stuff. We're going to talk about what's happening in the state. Then, really thrilled, we're going to be joined by. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to find my notes, which I found finally. And we are going to be joined by Teri Carter, who is, of course, a Kentucky writer. She is a gun safety advocate. She's going to bring us an update from the General Assembly, what's going on with gun safety this session. Hint, it's never good in terms of Kentucky and what bills are moving forward, unfortunately. So we'll get that update for you this week, which I think is really an important one. But before we get into that, I want to just check in, make sure you are ready to organize to fight the Trump MAGA regime and turn Kentucky purple. You guys probably know to fight the Trump MAGA regime is going to take a lot, right? It's going to take massive outrage. It's going to take significant protests. And I want to give you the update that the date has been set for the next No Kings March and mobilization. That's March 28th, Saturday, March 28th. Progress Kentucky is going to be working with Lexington No Kings Coalition to lead that effort in order to make it the biggest protest yet. And to hit the 3.5% rule, which is according to sociologist Erica Chenoweth, 3.5% of a population engaged in ongoing organized resistance will topple authoritarian administration. So 3.5% of Kentucky's population of 4.6 million people is, I think, 161,000 people. So that's a lot, folks. That's a lot of people. Not an insignificant task. So we had about 30,000 people, I think, back in October for the last No Kings. So that is, it's a lot more. We need to get more folks on the streets, which means we've got some time between now and March 28th. So you can, wherever you're watching this, you can organize a local protest. And I think we've got Lexington covered, Kentucky, but I think we could use lots and lots and lots of other events all across this Commonwealth. So hope you can do that. Help tell your friends that it's coming. Tell civic organizations you're involved with. Maybe your church group wants to come on out. So yeah, lots to do. We got some time to do it. A bit more than a month to make it as big as possible. We need to do that. But we need to turn that outrage into action. And really for the next 9 months, Progress Kentucky is focused on flipping the 6th congressional district. We think No Kings should be a direct feed in to the work that we're working to do on the ground to get voters engaged, right? So within that 16 county congressional district, Kentucky's 6th district, we've got a lot of key state house seats that are in that district, some state senate races as well. And it's a really important piece of like how you can fight back from Trump. There's a lot of ways protests are useful, but protests towards an outcome, I think, are more important. The idea that, we can reject what ICE is doing across the country, but certainly in Minnesota, we can do that, with a protest, certainly. But, putting people to work to make political change, I think, is the most important thing. Of course, I'm biased, but so what we want to do is turn people into, from protesters to like campaign organizers, really, to get as many voters out as possible in November and to flip the Kentucky 6th district, right? That's what we want to do. It's going to take time, resources, volunteers. Need your help to do it. We've been working with Peaceful Bluegrass Resistance and the Kentucky Future Project. We've been organizing an amazing Flip the 6th campaign volunteer event at Lexington's West 6 Barrel Room the first Monday of the month. This month's event, the February event, when there was lots of icy roads and kind of treacherous conditions, we had about 40 folks show up, which was awesome, writing postcards to voters that need engagement and encouragement to show up for next November's election. We will be back there Monday, March 2nd. So the first Monday of every month is what we're doing. We had David Kloiber speak last week. We had Aaron Petrie join us in January. In March, we'll have Sherilyn Stevenson, and then Zach Dembo should be joining us in April. So if you want to hear from all the Democratic candidates who are running for the 6th district, you just got to make sure to come out to our monthly Lexington volunteer nights. You can sign up for those at Mobilize. We've been using the Mobilize platform to do that work. We also just started organizing a similar effort in Madison County. So if you're in Richmond, or if you're in, if Richmond's more convenient for you to get to than Lexington, we're going to be doing those, I think, the first Saturday of the month. So we did the one last Saturday. We got Saturday, March 7th. We're going to be in the Richmond Library from 1 to 3 p.m. making those handwritten postcards. But if your handwriting is too illegible to be helpful, you can make a monthly contribution. That's very useful. Turns out, I don't know if you knew this, folks, stamps are not cheap. So when you do thousands of postcards, that also requires thousands of stamps. And 61 cents a stamp times thousands. We're gonna need thousands of dollars really to do this work. So we would love to have your support. We would love to have your donations. We have an Act Blue website that you can go to very easily to donate some resources. Buy us a book of stamps, or a roll of postcard stamps are $61. So you could do that. We would be very appreciative. So at any rate, that's some of our political organizing. We got one thing that's coming up that I'm really excited about, that's focused less on the 6th district campaign, the Flip the 6 campaign, but focused more on why nonviolence matters, right? So we know we're all outraged. Since New Year's Day, 3 American citizens have been killed by immigration and customs enforcement agents. And these murders have been part of a broader pattern of unchecked violence and impunity and abuse carried out by these federal immigration enforcement agencies against our community. The core principle behind all the organized resistance from ICE Out for Good is a commitment to nonviolent action. And we are going to be putting together a workshop to walk through why nonviolence is a critical strategy for effective resistance. And we're doing that with a historical lens. Our friend Kit O'Connor is helping to lead that effort, really looking from why the Montgomery bus boycott worked, and why other civil rights movement efforts were grounded in nonviolence. And so hope you'll come out there. It's kind of a starter session. We're going to include a Know Your Rights briefing. We're going to be at the Willow Collective on President's Day, Monday, February 16th. It's in Lexington, and it's from 6 to 8:30. And we will put a link to that event also in our show notes. So all the stuff we're doing, you can come on out, join us on by clicking the Mobilize link to find out more about that, and all the details, and let us know you're coming, so we can make sure we set up enough chairs, I guess. But yeah, that is some of the stuff that we're doing. It's a lot of problems right now in our political landscape, right? But there are always things we can do about it. And I don't want this to be just talking heads on the interweb. I want this to be, about organizing for action. So hope you can join us at one or more of all the different events we've got going on this week. So going on this month, rather. Sorry. All right. So that is time for me to stop talking, and for me to finally check in with my co-hosts who have been waiting patiently to say a couple things. So, hey, folks, so thrilled to have you join us. I see you there, Chris Priest. How are you doing? Yeah. Where are you coming to us from? Who's on your BITIN list?
Doing well. You didn't say who's on your BITIN list.
I'll do that next.
So here in Berea, and come out to help write postcards so we can send it to voters and remind them to go out, especially in the primaries, because we want to make sure that we get good candidates to vote for in the general. And the more engaged we are, the better this whole democracy thing is going to work. So I'm sadly not going to be able to attend the No Kings rally at the end of March. The Lexington Comic-Con is happening that weekend, and I'm working to sell chocolate and my comic books that weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting for you. Sounds like a great weekend, chocolate and comic books.
Yeah. But in case you're working and busy and whatnot, like I am on those days, there's other opportunities for you to get involved and to do stuff. The protests can be flashy and fun with lots of people around, but going and writing postcards. There's usually quite a few other people there that you can connect with and bond with. It's a little bit more of a intimate setting than everybody walking around at a protest. So you get to have more one-on-one time with people. And you are directly sending writing something that's going to be sent to voters to try to engage them, which is awesome. Or maybe you could connect with the people who are doing the protests and make signs ahead of time for people who can just make it, but not make a sign, and they want to hold up a sign. So there's lots of different things that you can do. Now, on my BITIN list, I've got Pam Bondi, and boy, did she get get some nibbles on today for some Congress members. Yeah, she did not have a good time.
All right, teaser for one of the stories that's coming your way for sure. Awesome. Pam Bondi on Chris Priest's BITIN list. Kimberly Cecil Jones, are you there? Where are you? Where are you coming to us from? And do you have a BITIN list today?
Yes, I'm currently in Miami, Florida, working on a campaign right now. But I just jumped on here to do my BITIN list. And first of all, I'm going to say that on my BITIN list is Kentucky Senator Donald Douglas, who is a Republican from Nicholasville. And he has put a bill out for healthcare professionals or institutions that they can now do a right to refuse in any healthcare service that violates their conscience, such as if they have sincerely held religious, moral, or ethical principles held by that healthcare professional or healthcare institution. We might as well just say hospitals. So something similar to this was brought to the floor last year by another senator, and it passed, but it did not go for an actual vote on the complete House floor. So that's real asinine. I mean, what are you going to do if somebody is like, I don't want to take the blood pressure. I don't want to do surgery on this person because they're disabled or they're LGBTQIA plus or they're Hispanic or Black or a man or a woman or trans. Like, if something like this goes through, and this is what is it? It is Senate Bill 72. It could be catastrophic for not just Kentuckians, but it can send a presidents all across the nation. And I know, Aaron, you said don't pick Trump, but I just had to bring it up. I just have to. It's Black History Month and everything, and it's just, it don't even seem like Black History Month anymore. Even at a famous HBCU, FAMU, they wanted to do a Black History thing this month, and they had to take Black out of it because of this administration. Yes, FAMU, FAMU. Look the college up. It's a historically Black university. But the thing about it is, I have to put Trump, and I mean, he could be on there every day, every second, okay, if you asked me. However, he put up this video thing or whatever, and there was a clip of Michelle and Barack Obama portrayed as monkeys. So the pseudo president refused to take it down. It was just a big mess. But the whole deal in a nutshell is, how dare you? How disrespectful? How racist? And on that Senate Bill 72, the senator, the state senator that's bringing that up, Donald, he is a Black man and also a physician. So I would hate for something like that to go through, and then he needs emergency help or whatnot, and they refuse to give him service because of the color of his skin.
Yeah.
That's my take on BITIN list today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dr. Donald Douglas, not an impressive individual. That's a bad idea for a bill. But that's how you get attention in Frankfurt, is bad idea bills, I think. But yeah, I hear you on that one, Kimberly, for sure. So yeah, let's see my BITIN list this week. I am gonna put another state representative. So Representative Mark Hart is on my BITIN list. He is the lead sponsor of the bill that has in fact passed the Kentucky House to make fluoride optional and worse teeth mandatory for our Commonwealth. It really is just, all dental experts, public health experts will come out of the woodwork to say, yeah, this is a really bad idea. We should definitely not give counties the option to make fluoride, optional, right? This is one of the biggest dental public health boons of our age is fluoride treatment of drinking water. And but there's a lot of conspiracies out there about it, even though there's not any conspiracies tied to actual public health tests or results that show any problem other than the great benefit to dental health that fluoride offers. So really is just another dumb thing that's coming from those dumb folks up in Frankfurt. So Rep. Mark Hart, you're on my BITIN list. And thankfully your bill has not been created as law just yet. So my teeth are strong and it could be a painful bite for you, sir. All right. That's the BITIN list. Oh, this is what happens when Aaron has to produce is I forget to use the graphics. Let's just we'll wind up the BITIN list with our BITIN list video graphic, which I do love, the kind of like purple Willy Wonka vibe of the folks who are doing who are getting bit here. So, all right, let's move into actual news of the week. That's something we also have a graphic for that I'm going to go ahead and play. News of the week. We got a couple stories we want to make sure that we bring to your attention. Because you know what? That's what we're about here, helping to educate the populace. And what I'm going to start with is the Senate race, right? So this is the top of the ticket in November. Before that, of course, there's going to be the primary. So this story coming to us from Austin Horn. From the Lexington, Kentucky Herald Leader about the polls that are happening right now in that race. If folks watched last week's show, Dr. Clardy and I got into talking about the Kentucky Senate race, and we just did some prognostication. We didn't really have any polls, so apparently we were a little premature because since last week's episode, 2 independent polls have come out with some pretty interesting results, especially on the GOP side of the May ballot. So on the heels of Emerson College polling Fox 56, which was the first one, we then had the day after, Qantas Insights released a survey of 870 voters showing Representative Andy Barr and former Attorney General Dan Cameron neck and neck for first place, with Barr at 28.3%, Cameron at 27.4%, and Lexington tech entrepreneur Nate Morris coming in behind at 16.6%. So that was a poll conducted via text. The Qantas Insights is not as highly ranked of a polling outfit as the earlier Emerson College poll, but they looked a lot alike, right? These show that Cameron, who was dominant in the polls early, that lead has basically vanished, right? Emerson tagged Barr as the leader with 24%, Cameron's 21%. And the Qantas Insights poll had them closer to neck, but basically both tracking this downward swing for Cameron compared to polls from late last year. So that's, the other thing is that Morris is definitely increasing his numbers a bit, but that's one that he still is clearly in a third place position, and he is, though, I think, getting early support from folks who have a lot of credibility on the kind of far right, I would say fringe, but maybe they're just the majority of the party now. So folks like conservative activist Charlie Kirk, was rallying behind him before he was killed. Some positive interactions with President Donald Trump's son, Don Trump Jr. And then, of course, Morris recently got that boost from Elon Musk, who gave a PAC supporting him $10 million, right? So, but at the end of the year, Barr was leading in cash on hand with well over $6 million to his name. Cameron's had less than a tenth of Barr's total, but insists that money can't vote and is the name ID in his record. will sway Kentucky GOP voters. So that's what we got going on in that race. Is our man Garland Hale Barr the fourth, is expanding his, I think, knowledge and the voters' awareness of him beyond his kind of Lexington base of operations for the bulk of his political career. The money he's got is helping him establish his name, and it's apparently resonating with some voters. I don't know, Chris or Kim, any thoughts about this race and kind of where it sits now, or what those poll results tell you?
Kim.
Okay. I don't think Cameron has. It looks like he has a shot, but as time goes by, I just think that Barr is going to continue to be the front runner. And as far as polls are concerned, they're so young right now, in infancy, so to speak, that it's hard to really, believe in them, especially when Gallup says that this is the last year that they're going to be doing the polling for various elections across the country. And I said, why would Gallup stop doing that? They're like the foremost authority in polling. But as far as this is concerned, I just think it's going to be Barr. I just do.
Yeah. We got some time. We'll see how the money plays out. $10 million can buy a lot of attack ads against your opponents. That's for sure. Chris,
Yeah, I saw a headline. I think it was from Lexington Herald. No, maybe it was Kentucky Lantern that said that Daniel Cameron was leading with faith, not money, in this election. I didn't read the article, but I got a good chuckle out of it. And so, Barr is the biggest bootlicker, and we'll figure out how to squeak this out, I think.
Edith Speaks, who commented on Facebook, says they're all bootlickers, and I think that's pretty accurate. I think they're all lining up to lick Trump's boots. And I appreciate Edith for commenting. Also, Mitzi, who said it's like anything to hurt the American people is what they want to do. Not left and right versus this point. It's up and down. And I think that those GOP candidates are all competing to see who could deliver the most for the oligarchs. Would be my take on it, right? The as John Ossoff called them this week, the Epstein class. They just kind of get to do what they want, and we just get forced to deal with what we must. Anyway, love to see some comments there. Thanks for weighing in, folks. All right, so we got another story. This one is going to challenge my production abilities, but I think it's a really important one, and we turn it to our friend Chris to lead it up for us.
All right. Speaking of Epstein, there is some ties with all the Epstein documents to Kentucky, of course, because this went on for a long time, and inevitably there are links all over the place. So the biggest link to Kentucky with Epstein is one of his former private pilots actually graduated from EKU and is from Carroll County. His name is David Rogers. And we saw this in one of the emails that was leaked because Epstein mentioned to another one of his pilots that Dave was requested to be off duty to go to EKU's homecoming, and this was in 2018. So that's a bit disturbing and sad that one of our homegrown went and was a big, I would say a fairly big part of that. If you're flying them around, you probably saw some disturbing stuff. If you're one of his private pilots. And another link, and this is funny. So Epstein got an email to asking for a donation to Mitch McConnell's campaign, and he just simply replied, no. So, I will give a slight, tip of the cap to not funding Mitch McConnell. Thank you. And he was also invited to one of Mitch McConnell's fundraisers by someone else who was supporting McConnell. There was no evidence of whether Epstein actually went to that fundraising event or not. And then there's another connection was a young lady who was attending University of Kentucky, filled out a job application to be a personal assistant, unknowing that it was tied to Epstein or anything like that, because she was reached out to later on, and she was like, I just filled out an application for a job. I did not know that it was related to Epstein at all. And within that, it mentioned that she was graduating from the University of Kentucky. And there was a professor potentially looking at UK for work that and University of Kentucky was an option. That's a pretty weak association, but it was there. And so those are the biggest ties to Kentucky with the Epstein files that we've seen so far. And remember, we have not seen all the files by any stretch. So from what we've got right now, that's what we see. Now, on a more positive note, related to the Epstein files, Pam Bondi got to sit in front of Congress today and got absolutely drilled by many Congress folks, but in particular Massie, if you want to hit that clip.
Yeah, let me pull that up, and we can have you maybe do a little response afterwards. But yeah, let's see what we got.
Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You get to reclaim
because
time
this is bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question
this
the way you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not. And it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News.
What?
Donate now or even.
What was that?
Yeah, if you watched any of this congressional hearing, like it was a lot of that from Pam Bondi. Anytime anyone asked her a question, it was a personal attack that she would try to stab back with, whether it was related or not. And Massie, before that clip, brought up something that I think is the most egregious thing that Pam Bondi has done with releasing the files, and that is that there was a explicit email saying, "Here are some of the victims of Epstein. Make sure that you don't make sure that you redact their names." And within the email, they redacted the lawyer's name, but none of the victims, and it had like personal contact information. And some of those people have now been harassed by others because they leaked their personal information. And I know some of this is political theater, but also it's important to see some of it. Like a lot of those victims were there today. And I don't remember the congresswoman who had them stand up and show that they had not been contacted by the Department of Justice or anything regarding the leaking of their personal information, but asked. So she had them stand up and show that they had not been contacted by the Department of Justice since they leaked all that information, and asked Pam Bondi just to simply apologize to them. And she acted like, or Pam Bondi acted like that was an insane thing to ask of her, to apologize, and just kind of ignored it and started to try to attack the congresswoman. I don't remember who it was exactly, but it was it was a lot of that, and I haven't watched all of it, but I did get to watch a fair amount of it today. But I'm very proud of Thomas Massie for him in this respect of going after the Epstein files and trying to hold them accountable for what they've done here.
Yeah, so that Lexington Herald leader article about Kentucky ties to the Epstein files, like obviously the biggest one is that without Thomas Massie, these would not have been seeing the public, the light of day, and the public wouldn't be able to scrutinize them. And then of course, Bondi just being wholly incompetent, right? And her DOJ incapable of using redactions properly, and you say maybe it's political theater, maybe it's intentional. I don't know. It's just like it strikes me as just one more thing the DOJ can't just do because they don't have anyone around that knows what the hell they're up to, and doing their basic jobs well. That's what happens when you get when you use the Department of Justice primarily as a retribution machine for your political grievances and your past, perceived wrongs. You don't get very many good people doing the work there, and people continue to leave in droves because of what he's doing to that, what he and she, Trump and Bondi, are doing to that, once august group of amazing attorneys, right? So sad. Kimberly, any thoughts about this kind of most recent tranche of Epstein documents and their ties to what's happened here in Kentucky and what Thomas Massie's been up to?
Well, I do appreciate Thomas Massie doing his job. As far as this Epstein debacle is concerned, as far as Pam Bondi is here in Florida, they don't even like her. She messed up stuff here, so she's just going on a national stage, messing stuff up again. And do I believe in conspiracy theories? Not too much, but sometimes if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And there does seem like there's some type of major cover up going on. And you mean we're so lax in our government? Like nobody, when they were redacting, I think it was on purpose. I do. I think it was on purpose. Those women hold the key to everything. Why not put it out there? What they call it, doxing or whatever. Is that what they call it, doxing?
Yeah.
You put the information out. So, I'm just going to continue to pray for these women now that all the information is out there for who knows and what for to know. And Pam Bondi is just going to continue to do Pam Bondi. People are going to continue to do what they do until you hold them accountable. And who's being really held accountable right now? We can yell, argue, and fight with them, but who is honestly holding them accountable with a strong arm and getting some change done?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I just like the name that came up in that clip. That was, of course, the owner of Victoria's Secret. So we had a long time association with Epstein. And if anyone was involved with any sort of any sort of network, it seems like that guy would be front and center, and seems like Epstein had the goods on him. And so I think what Massie was trying to get out of the DOJ there was very pointed, very smart, and hopefully we'll get some sort of response out of the DOJ, and we'll see their decision making process as to why not hold some of these rich men accountable for what they were likely doing, right? At least get the investigation up and running for sure. All right, so we got a little bit long. Really need to move on. Really thrilled.
Oh, real quick.
Yes.
Guess who wasn't? Guess who isn't in the Epstein files?
Me.
Of course, us. We would never be invited at this particular point, but our dear former president, Barack Obama. I just needed to say that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. All right. So now thrilled to be joined by our guest. If you've watched the show for a while, you might have seen her previously, but Teri Carter is a writer and had a humdinger of a column this week. And she is a gun safety advocate, working with Moms Demand Action, and is also my favorite good troublemaker from Anderson County. Welcome back to the show to Teri Carter. How are you doing this evening?
Hi. Hey, how you guys doing?
You know, hanging in there. So, new day, new cavalcade of horrible news, but yeah, no.
Yeah. I'm glad the ice is melted.
So much going on.
There is a lot going on. So I did want to just start this conversation off. You write for a lot of different folks, but you have a great opinion piece this week about Garland Hale Barr the Fourth, because here on this show we try not ever to call him his chosen first name, not his real first name. We don't want to give him any like positive associations with that first name.
Are we dead naming him?
What's that?
So are we dead naming him?
Yeah. So Garland Hale Barr the Fourth, my personal current congressman, he gets some of your attention. So what I would have called it, the politics of grievance for white male Christians across Kentucky. What really prompted you to write that column? And what's your take on that?
So I can't see any of you guys. I can only see myself. So I don't know if there's a way to put us all back in the boxes. But let me
call out that I'm not a very good producer, Teri.
There we go. That's better. Now I'm talking to some people.
I can't juggle things very well. Yes.
So here's how that column came about. I did not see the ad during the UK game, I guess, on Saturday. So I came home from church on Sunday, and when I walked in the door, I'd had church and Sunday school and went to a board meeting after. So I got home at like 2:00 in the afternoon. And the first thing that happened when I walked in is my husband said, "Have you seen this Andy Barr ad?" So immediately I looked at it, and no joke, the instant the ad was over, I said, "Well, he served me up a softball right over the plate. So I'm going to have to write about that tomorrow." But it was so, and then of course I watched a dozen plus times, right, to make sure that I had every word he was saying right, to make sure I didn't miss anything he said. And I thought, nope, his message is very clear. He may have, has just like boiled it all down to about 5 seconds. I'm a racist. Vote for me. And you know what? I don't know if he is. That's the thing. Is he? Isn't he? But I also get tired of going back and forth on, is somebody this? Is somebody that? Which is why, and I didn't know I was going to get to this when I was writing the column when I started. But as I kept going along, I just finally got to the point, and it's one of the last paragraphs in the piece, and it's long. And it says, we keep hearing from Republican voters that they didn't vote for Trump because of this or that, that he's a racist. They dismiss that because he's doing all these other conservative things. And you know what? He is not a conservative. Conservatives conserve things. They conserve in name. So they are a conservative by name, but they're conservative in nature. They don't want change. They like things the way they are. They like to preserve institutions. And you can't tear down the East Wing of the White House, have DOJ take a bulldozer through all these government agencies, get rid of USAID. You can't do all that and claim to be any level of conservative. So I have decided I am over listening to that argument, because it is always the argument that people go to. Well, you just don't like Trump, they'll say, or you're just a Democrat. You're not going to like any Republican. Well, Trump's no Republican and he's no conservative. And it is incredible to me to watch Andy Barr, Nate Morris, Daniel Cameron fight so desperately for his endorsement. It's really sickening. And now I think, Chris, you mentioned there was a piece a couple days ago about Daniel Cameron taking the faith route. Well, he's taken the faith route because he doesn't have any money. So he's the guy left behind. Barr's got like $6.5 million, I think. Nate Morris just got this $10 million, bump from Elon. Well, Daniel's got like $600,000 or something. He's got no money compared to those two. So he has to pick a lane. So he's decided that he's going to pick the faith lane. And frankly, I think it's too late. And I don't think it's going to matter. So that's what I think about Garland Hale Barr the Fourth, or whatever his name is. A nice country club boy for the regular folks.
Exactly. It's just the common man. Just the
common
common
man.
man, Garland
Common
Hale
man
Barr.
in long pink shorts playing golf. Just the common man.
Yeah, it's like the heart of their. Who cares about their heart of hearts, right? What I care about is like, what are they actually doing insane? And it's pretty offensive and disgusting.
And on that ad too, before we leave it, we have to remember that he didn't just stand up there and say it. Somebody wrote that copy. Somebody rewrote and rewrote and rewrote that copy to make sure it was exactly what they wanted to say. They had him stand there and practice delivering that. He didn't just pop up there once and throw out a bone. No, this is a whole campaign strategy, and it is disgusting.
Yeah. And the kind of sad thing about it, right, is that like they're doing all this stuff in the primary, and then you would, kind of expect, oh yeah, then they'll need to like walk away from some of this stuff in the general. I don't think they will. No. I just don't think they'll have to in Kentucky. They're like, nope, we're good.
No, I think you're exactly right. And he seems pretty happy with it, with his big smile, looking like a racist.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. He is authentically smug. I think that is like a genuine, like.
And gotten a lot more smug as the years progressed.
But I have to tell you, the thing that I always think of when I see Andy Barr do anything is that, I forget what year it was. I want to say 2018. 2020, it must have been 2018 because it had to be before the pandemic, but he came to Anderson County. Oh, it was when he was running against Amy McGrath. Remember that? And he came to Anderson County, Amy came, and Jeff Young came. And they were on the stage, and the place was packed. And I remember specifically Jeff Young accused McGrath of being a war criminal. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is already going off the rail. It was just insane because Jeff Young is insane. And then then they had people asking questions. Well, there was a woman who's a friend of mine who got up and asked a question, and she asked Barr about abortion. And he equivocated and he wouldn't quite directly answer. And then after it was over, we were standing out in the hallway and they were all coming out, and Andy Barr came out, and this woman walked toward him, and he was standing there affable, chatting, smiling with people. And he saw her. And when she got close to him, no joke, he turned tail and ran down the hall and out the door of that school building. He's a wimp.
Courageous Garland Hale Barr.
The big fighter for the white man is a wimp.
Awesome. Let's turn to the General Assembly. Chris, you got a question for Teri?
Yeah. So I'm seeing Barr, in his political job for so long. Like, I'm curious of your view of how he has progressively marched to the right as these years have gone on. Like, how have you experienced that?
Well, the thing that I see in Andy Barr that I've seen from the beginning is that there is no there. He is a vacuous, empty vessel. So he does and says, and a lot of them are like this. I mean, it's not like he's alone as a politician. I mean, there's a lot of them that are like this. So you guys were talking about Donald Douglas before I came on, who's a state senator. And boy, does he fascinate me in all horrible ways. But Andy Barr, there's nothing there. When he talks, he's just like a talking point machine. I wrote a piece recently, I think a week or so ago, about how, we're all sick of all politicians, no matter the party. We're sick of the talking points. We need you to start talking like real people. And nobody talks like a politician like Andy Barr. I don't know that I've ever heard him sound remotely not like a robot. But he smiles. Got that big smile. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Kimberly, you have a question for Teri?
I sure do. And it's really about how she feels about something. Um, Teri, you know, a lot has been going on right now when it comes to journalism and journalists being truthful and honest about political things, especially dealing with the GOP.
Mhm.
With Don Lemon getting arrested, grand jury indicted, so many other journalists being canceled, losing their jobs, like Joy Reid and so many more on all networks because they have said so many things about the GOP, not just Trump, but just state level, local level on up. How do you feel about that? And you've published in national and international publications as well as statewide. How do you feel about that as a journalist?
I probably feel a little different than some because I've never worked for a newspaper. I've always been a freelancer, so I've always been out on my own. Um, and in some ways, that makes it even scarier for me because I see the institutions as being able to, protect the journalists, be able to protect them while they do investigative work. Just last week, I rewatched Spotlight, which is about the Boston Globe's investigation of the Catholic Church. And when you watch that movie, and the book is great too, but when you watch that movie, you see how much pressure there is from the community because Boston's a lot of Catholics in the community. So there was big pressure from the church for them to not look into that story for years, for decades. The editor they had before Marty Barron came, because Marty Barron, who was at the Washington Post before it went under, as it's going under now, Marty Barron was at the Boston Globe when they did the story on the Catholic Church. And they really, it took months of work to do that and talking to hundreds of people and doing all that work while they're not publishing anything. So you've got all these reporters and you doing that work over months, keeping it secret, talking to victims, checking into perpetrators, making lists, double checking their sources, et cetera. All that takes money and it takes a legal department. And when you have these big newspapers and even the local newspapers, if you don't have that kind of backing, you're not going to be able to look into corruption. So I'm not even talking about the regular day-to-day of following the legislature, which is what I do mostly now, or, the think pieces that people put out. But these journalists going independent, I say great for them. But they have no staff. I mean, people like Joy Reid and Don Lemon, Jim Acosta, Terry Moran, they've all got a few people that are working with them, doing camera work, doing the computer stuff, doing sound for them, helping them, do whatever they need to do. But they don't have a big legal department. They got to pay somebody to be their lawyer. They got to have, libel insurance. They don't have time to do investigative work because they're spending all their time trying to produce a podcast every other day or every night for some of them. So I don't know. It's nice to have all these people out there with their platforms. But number one, I'm starting to realize how many Substacks I'm subscribed to and that I'm paying for, and it's too many. So people only have so much money and they're only going to pay for so many, independent, because all these independents are like 50, 60, 80, some of them $300 a year for one person. And again, when you are doing a podcast that's every day or even a few times a week, all you're doing is reacting to news. And sometimes I feel like I'm just reacting to news, just like I was reacting when I wrote the piece about Andy Barr and his ad. I'm reacting. I'm not doing anything proactive. I am not finding something, hunkering down in the quiet, investigating for a month to see what I find and then reporting. And we're going to lose a lot of that. And the corruption's just going to skyrocket because there's nobody to do it.
This is my second part that I meant to ask you. As far as especially independent journalists being attacked for what they say by reporting the truth, is really what it boils down to when you're moving into an authoritarian regime. Do you think this is something that one of our state representatives or state senators can bring up for more protections for reporters in the state of Kentucky?
Oh, I'm going to laugh because they don't want anybody looking into what they're doing. I mean, um, that's like, I would like to say that they have that kind of, you know, integrity, for lack of a better word. But they don't want anybody doing open records requests. And, all that stuff takes time. When I do an open records request or, all that stuff, I have a lawyer look at it. It all takes time. And I just think that they are starting to like it exactly like it is. And what I'll say is a couple years ago, I was talking to a Republican in the legislature. I will not say who it is, but they said privately to me, you know what the problem is with having a supermajority? Is we can do anything we want. And so we do really stupid stuff because we can. And the example that was given to me is, I think it was in 2020, was it in 2023 that they had the, was it Senate Bill 150, the Max Wise anti-trans bill? Well, if you remember back, it's hard to remember, but when those bills first started, they all started as just pronouns. That's all anybody was worried about, was teachers having to use pronouns for kids in schools. That's all it was. And then it became this enormous omnibus bill because it got them attention. And what happens when they get attention? It helps them get reelected because they run on it. So they didn't have to go that far. They could have just stuck with the pronouns, which was dumb enough, but they could have, stuck with that. It was mean-spirited enough, but they didn't because they have a supermajority and they could do more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we run out of time here, I do want to turn to some bills that you're tracking.
Yeah.
I know that, you pay attention to what's happening on gun safety in Frankfurt. As I said earlier, tends to be the dumbest, worst bills that tend to get traction, or the most dangerous bills. But yeah, what are you watching right now? I think HB 312 has gotten some momentum, and that's, would allow 18-year-olds to get concealed carry permits, which seems like a really bad idea, but what's going on there?
So a couple things. So I wrote about House Bill 312 and then I started tracking it. And then I noticed that another bill got filed. So House Bill 312, which is to allow 18 to 20-year-olds to conceal carry firearms. And the caveat is that they have to do it with training. So this is their big selling point on getting that bill passed is, they'll be trained, and it's at least they have to be trained. So it's all good. So that bill passed easily out of committee. So it's passed through the House and it's sitting waiting to go to the Senate. I think it's on January 27th, it was assigned to the Committee on Committees in the Senate. So it's sitting in the Committee on Committees in the Senate waiting to move. Interestingly, Aaron Reed in the Senate has filed Senate Bill 75, which is the mirror bill that he filed last year, which is the same thing. It's concealed carry for 18 to 20, or it's concealed carry, and it's got it hasn't moved. It's still in the Committee on Committee in the Senate. But you know how it's kind of like, I forget, was it when the anti-trans bill passed, there was Senate Bill 150 and there was like House Bill 470 or something, and then they combined? Mm-hmm. That's what this looks like to me. Mm. Like they're going to wait and take this up. But here's the other interesting thing. So House Bill 312, 18 to 20-year-olds carry weapons. It breezed right through. Everybody basically voted for it who you'd think would vote for it. And it passed right out of committee. And in that, so Savannah Maddox was sitting at the testimony table when they did their vote. And they all voted. And when it got to her vote, she said, she volunteered. She was not asked a question. She said, "May I explain my vote?" And here's what she said when she explained her vote. I'm going to read it to you. No aspect of this legislation changes any of the locations in which it is permissible for them to have that firearm. She said that at the 11-minute mark of that hearing. Well, lo and behold, Savannah Maddox has also filed House Bill 517. And what is House Bill 517? House Bill 517, which has been assigned to judiciary, says it wants to amend the KRS statute to no longer prohibit the carrying of concealed deadly weapons in schools, to add persons with valid licenses to carry concealed deadly weapons to the list of those permitted to possess weapons in schools. So she said in her House Bill 312 testimony, oh, well, this is just allowing them to carry, but they're not going to be able to conceal carry those guns in places where they already can't. Hello, schools. But she'd already filed a bill to do exactly that. I thought my head was going to explode, because if that bill starts going through, well, isn't that just a lie? I mean, she's right, and she's telling the truth when she says no aspect of this legislation changes any of the locations, except that she's now filed a bill to do exactly that. Yeah. You know, you really just get tired of the disingenuousness and the sneakiness and the mean-spiritedness. And I mean, I don't know how any of this pays for anybody's groceries, helps anybody get a job, you know, helps pay for their health insurance, helps them get medical care. You were talking about the fluoride bill that's coming up again. You know, these bills are a mystery to me. They do absolutely nothing that the public says they want.
Yeah.
But it's what they can use when they run again for re-election. Because you know what? It's not sexy to talk about kitchen table issues. You know, the Democrats, we always say, oh, we need to talk more about kitchen table issues. And that's true. But you will put people to sleep talking to them about their taxes or their budget or education. You know, those are all things people need and want and are desperate for and notice when they're gone or when it goes south. But can you stand on a stage and get people's attention to get you to vote for you on that? Sadly, these Republicans don't seem to think so. So
that's unfortunate. So a few different bills you're watching, some kind of shenanigans you could anticipate potentially coming down the pipe as this, you know, the session grinds on, and how they might move some of these things forward. What's the best way for people to keep an eye on what's happening with gun safety issues in the legislature right now, Teri?
Well, I mean, I'm going to write about it for the Kentucky Lantern. So I'll certainly be covering all these bills. I have Bill Watch for all of these bills. So I am alerted whenever things happen. And of course, you're usually alerted, as you guys know, at 8 or 10 o'clock on the night before a bill is going to be heard the next day.
Oh, that transparency they love so much. Excellent. Well, hey, thank you for the work. Thank you for your writing and your words. I think the way you characterize what's happening in our political landscape is just so powerful, and we always appreciate you sharing your views with us, Teri.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. So great. Always a pleasure to check in with Teri. And now I think we've gone a little bit long, so we probably need to close out the show. So, you know, Kimberly, you want to do that?
I sure can. This has been a great show. I've learned a lot tonight. Haven't been able to keep up on everything because I've been traveling and doing other things, but it's always such a pleasure to have Teri on the show and just to be with you guys again tonight. Thank you so much. It's such an honor. But Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and Common Ground Kentucky Action, and we're also proud members of Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate. I lost my place, fellas.
You don't have that memorized by now?
Yes, I do, but I just went blank. Like, oh my God. And I mean, I'm just gleaned so much information tonight that I just went blank. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I was saying that Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance the progressive agenda through civic engagement. We will be back next week, and we'll be speaking with another phenomenal great guest. I think that it could possibly be someone from the Kentucky Student Voice team on some of the bad public education efforts at the General Assembly. And of course, we'll have our usual updates on Kentucky political news with our own progressive views. Production of episode 246 was by our very own host with the most, Aaron Viles. Thank you, Aaron. You did great tonight, by the way. Nate Orshan wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. That's NATO songs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are always available on Apple, Spotify, just about wherever you get your podcast from. Then also just want to let you know that when you do listen to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. You understand the algorithms and how it works wherever you may listen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, all our viewers and listeners for joining us tonight. And we will be back next week. And in the meantime and in between time, have a great rest of your week.